Welcome back to our video series. In this section, we're going to be setting up a direct deposit. So we'll talk about how to set up direct deposit and why is there an importance to set up direct deposit. So ultimately, we want to make sure that we have an automated financial system, meaning that we know when we're expected to get paid. So their cash inflows coming in at a specific time, whether that's the first of the month, 15th of the month, or you get paid weekly, right? It's important to go and talk to our human resources or HR department to ensure that we're getting a form for direct deposit. So instead of going and cashing in our checks every Friday or physically deposit to the bank, it's important to set up this direct deposit, right? So that's going to allow us to plan ahead, right? As we're getting in the money at an expected time, that's going to allow us to set up our payments for, credit cards, bills, or any other kinds of loans. So let's get started. So what is direct deposit? Direct deposit is a transfer of your paycheck funds by an employer directly to your bank or financial institution, typically at a rate specified, as I mentioned earlier, whether that's a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, or maybe at times even once a month. So these funds are going to be automatically transferred to this account that you specified, and even in amount that you specify. So for example, if you have a separate account, perhaps a high yielding savings account online versus your physical bank where you have your checking account, you can either send, say, 80% to your checking account and 20% to your savings, or vice versa, or you can specify an actual amount of money, right? So that's one of the benefits that we get from having direct deposit. But most importantly, this is going to help you avoid dealing with physical checks and trips to your bank, as I mentioned before as well. So why would you set up direct deposit? So again, there's potential money savings for this. Understanding that there's a lot of individuals out there that don't even have a bank account, right? Or there's some that for some reason or another are behind payments, right? So maybe rent is due or there's bills that are past due. So people have different circumstances of why they need to cash their checks. So oftentimes they might go to one of those cashing places, those for-profit cashing places. And unfortunately, a lot of those prey on lower income areas. So as you're driving across town, you'll see those buildings with the big signs, usually yellow signs that said 1% cashing checks, right? So again, this is going to allow us to avoid that, right? As we're getting that money directly deposited into our banks, and hopefully, again, it's going to allow us to plan a little bit better so we don't have to go and find alternative places to cash our checks. Also, it's going to allow you for flexibility. As I mentioned, the flexibility of knowing that we're going to get paid and that our money is going to be there at a specific date, right? Instead of waiting for a physical paycheck and driving into the bank and doing that, right? So this ties into our convenience aspect of things. So the convenience of not having to drive every Friday after work to deposit those paychecks, and also the security of not having to worry about those checks being stolen or misplacing them for whatever reason. So how do you set up a direct deposit? So typically, as I mentioned, you go to your HR department and ask them for a form, and it's typically pretty straightforward form. It's going to ask you for the following information. So for example, you'll have your name, the bank routing number, your ABA number, and this is going to vary by bank, right? So for me, being in Texas and being a Chase customer, I can find that online, and this is the one for myself. But if you have any other major bank like Bank of America, etc., you can easily find that information online, or you can usually just call them, and that's going to make it easier. Or even easier, if you have a physical check, you can see the number, and I'll show you here in the next an example of a check. So as you can see, you get your routing number, your account number. The check number doesn't really matter here. But again, this is the information that typically they would ask you, right? Oftentimes your HR, the form will ask you to include a voided check. So you might have to add a check and physically write void. So that way, that's a invalid check. They just need it for verification purposes. Also, thinking about the example I gave you earlier about potentially having multiple accounts, right? Whether that's your investment, whether that's your savings or other kinds of checkings account. Maybe you do business with a local credit union, half and half. So it's up to you. You can add savings or checkings accounts or both. So now you submitted the application, brought it back to your HR department. Now what? You might have to wait up to 2 weeks. I know I've had to wait at least over 10 days in the past. And part of it is just to jump ahead, this will not impact you getting paid, right? So if for whatever reason the accounts payable department it delays, you'll still have an option to get paid as you normally would, and you'll make that last one trip to the bank to deposit it. Hopefully we won't have a need to cash it out. But again, this is going to take a few days, so just be patient. And again, this is a great step. So for those that can't set up a direct deposit, if your employer for whatever reason doesn't have that, or if you work for a smaller company maybe, but you still get paid with a physical paycheck, I would suggest make use of your smartphone. A lot of times you have applications, and most major banks do have these applications that you can easily take a picture of of the actual check, and a lot of times it uses OCR technology to recognize the letters, right? So that way there's no need to even enter the amount manually, because it's gonna pick it up by your camera. So a lot of times all you have to do is just either write your signature and with a touchpad, or also you just manually type it there, right? So, or at times it'll ask you to actually write with a pen on the physical check that says something along the lines of, this is for the purposes of online deposit. Then you take a picture of the front and the back. So it's just as simple as that. It's still going to save you the drive to the bank, and also on gas, right? And also just the inconvenience of being waiting for other potential customers that are on the line. So, and if you don't have a bank account, I would seriously recommend you to get one as soon as possible, because this is going to set up the foundation of our automatic financial system, right? We need to have a bank account or a place where we can have all the sources of money that's going to allow us to automate, and those automatic withdrawals, your monthly bills, and later on our investment accounts, right? So in conclusion, direct deposit is a great way to start our future automated financial system, and it will enable its steady income flow to our savings and our checking accounts. This is going to allow you to automate other payments such as bills, credit card payments, and eventually our future investments. So again, it's important to set it up. It might take up to 2 weeks, but it's totally worth it. Again, this is for your own benefit, and again, it's going to allow you to plan ahead.